I'm going to sit here and read a story. We only get one or two, if that. One year we actually got a handful, but round here, Halloween is just not big business. Nevertheless, I'm always ready with far too many bags of those mini Mars bars. If they've made the effort, or in this case, just plucked up the courage, I want them to have lots of the best of the worst. I find the parents are really grateful for an open and welcoming door, as our street is mostly bedsits. A lot of people passing through, multiple doorbells that don't respond. You have to push a lot of bells down on Fordrich Road for a few Mars bars. I decided a couple of years ago that I wanted to make the effort. It takes me what seems like a long time to climb out of my bed, my office, my home, and rush down the hallways to the main entrance. By the time I reach the front door, most delivery men, mailmen, or in this case trick-or-treaters, will have given up and departed. My journey to the door from wherever only takes about 60 seconds, but the mobile phone has made us impatient and immediate out of all proportion. I put on the blue lights in the front room and the hallway light and drew a pumpkin on that orange post-it by the bell that says, Halloween, ring bell, and wait, in big letters. I left that post-it on my inside door all year to remind me of how good it felt just to be there. When I hung it up this year, it also said Einie and hat, two things I need to remember when we're filming, but the message still looked clear to me. The blue light reflects off the white walls and casts a welcoming, if not quite Halloween glow. 2 years ago, I was shown why I do it. Two little boys arrived on my doorstep. Their dad at the gate. Clearly of Eastern European extraction and not much money on hand. Their costumes were bin bag liners. About 4 and 5 years old, their dad was wearing one too. There was so much love between them, so much joy. They may not have had money for fancy Halloween costumes or the lovely little pumpkin baskets that cost $5 at John Lewis, but they knew what was important and could teach the world a thing or two. They were back the next year. They were back the next year, a little older, same bin bags. The little one had somehow acquired a Lone Ranger eye mask, clearly moving up in the world. With Dad at the gate giving me a big smile and a wave. This time, he wasn't wearing his costume. I gave the little one loads of Mars bars, and they gave me something far more special. At least they knew where to come. This year I knew I would not be seeing them. They had moved. I was sure, but I know they thought of me as I did of them, fondly, very fondly. I hope they found a neighborhood where families lived and doors opened more readily. I'd had a pretty stressful day. Marnie had not been well, and I wasn't sure where the path would lead. She's on borrowed time. And I'd reached a point where I'd done literally all that I could do, so I was just chilling and waiting and listening to music and preparing myself to jump out of bed quickly and run to the door. But no one came. Around 7:30, when I went for a pee, I noticed that the hallway seemed quite dark. My neighbors upstairs, who always insist that the hallway lights remain on all night and even in the daytime, had switched it off to deter the children. But the universe had another plan for the little Halloweeners. As I switched on the light in the outer hallway, 3 little faces appeared at the door. I told them to wait and grab the candy. 3 little girls, maybe 4, 5, and 6, in brightly colored scary masks. Kind of like melted Guy Fawkes faces, but not gruesome, stood before me in their jeans and t-shirts. Tiny hands not really able to hold more than one baby Mars bar in each, thanked me gently but firmly 3 times. "Don't you have a bag for candy?" I asked. They didn't. I looked at the gate and saw no adult. "Where's your mommy?" The oldest one answered. "We don't have a mommy," she said. "We have a daddy." "Where is he?" I asked as we moved together toward the gate. "There he is," they pointed. A few houses down, a young guy, 30s maybe, hands in pockets. As they came to him, he turned and I waved. He did too. They were so sweet, so adorable, so fragile, so small. I don't even think they could have reached the bell, far less gotten it to ring. I was meant to be there, to see them, to reward them. And I took heart in knowing, in the direction they were going, I had seen at least one house decorated for the occasion. They were the only ones that came that night. I hope their dad had room in his pockets, as it's usually mommies that think to bring a bag for Halloween. When I was a child, we weren't allowed to have store-bought candy. The odd ginger ale on a really hot day, but only on special occasions. No Coca-Cola, and absolutely no candy. The rules were strict when my mother was still alive, and they were obeyed. Even though the candy rule was strictly enforced, Easter eggs, Christmas only, we were allowed, along with the 30-odd other kids on our block, to trick or treat. The year I best recall, I was dressed as Tweety Bird. I had recently been fitted with glasses that I didn't actually require and was wondering how they would fit under my mask. They got left behind that night permanently, as soon as the novelty wore off. So we got to cruise the neighborhood with the other kids and ring bells and collect loads of the forbidden candy in the bags my mother had provided. But there was a difference. We weren't allowed to eat it as we traveled. And once we were home, our booty in tow, my father had devised a plan. He took all our candy, except maybe a few pieces, and ceremonially burned it in the incinerator, stood in the back of the garden. I'm sure we cried and protested as much as was safe, while standing there in our little costumes watching our candy burn. I knew I didn't like it, and that it brought the tears to myself and my brother as well. But it wasn't until so many years later, when I was seeing Florence for healing, and I saw her jaw drop when I told her the story, that I realized it was cruel. I could envision my father's apparent delight in ripping the prize from our hands, the glow of the incinerator as our candy melted before our eyes. It wasn't long after those days that I too would be left without a mommy. My heart went out to those 3 little angels stood on my doorstep, and I hope that their daddy lets them eat their candy, remembers to brush their little teeth, and the new mommy will come to love them all. As I once cried for our burning candy, and so often for my own loss, I have cried for those little girls. I pray that their hearts will be warm and full with love, and that their enormous spirits will continue to grow and prosper.